The accident took my legs. 3 months later, my wife left. That's when I learned something terrifying. Love wasn't unconditional.
They said it casually. At family dinners, at birthdays, at holidays where laughter felt just a little louder when I walked in. "Ethan's got it figured out," they would say. "Man's living the dream." At 35, I had everything society teaches you to chase. A strong income, a respectable business, a house in a clean neighborhood where lawns were trimmed and problems stayed behind closed doors. A wife who smiled easily in public. Parents who spoke my name with pride. Relatives who leaned closer when I talked. Back then, I thought that meant love. I didn't understand yet that love, when built on comfort, collapses the moment comfort disappears. I wasn't born rich. I came from a middle-class American family where survival didn't require desperation, but success demanded effort. My father worked in logistics for most of his life. He believed in routine, discipline, and silence. My mother believed in appearances, not vanity, but stability. Looking fine meant things were fine. From a young age, I learned one rule without anyone ever saying it out loud. Your value is measured by what you provide. So I provided. I studied hard, worked harder, and by my late 20s, I had built something real. A logistics-related business of my own. Long hours, constant calls, missed weekends, but money flowed steadily. Respect followed close behind. By 35, I was the man people depended on. The one who paid when someone was short, the one who solved problems with a transfer and a calm voice, the one whose advice carried weight because success made it credible. At family gatherings, my seat was never questioned. My wife, Laura, used to watch me with pride, or at least I thought she did. She would adjust her posture when I spoke, laugh at my jokes a little louder than necessary, introduce me with confidence. "This is my husband, Ethan." I mistook that performance for devotion. Our marriage looked solid from the outside. No screaming, no drama, no scandals. We weren't deeply romantic, but we were functional, and in adulthood, functionality often gets mistaken for happiness. I paid the bills, she managed the house, we planned vacations months in advance, we talked about kids someday. And someday felt safe because tomorrow felt guaranteed. I had no reason to believe it wasn't. The accident happened on an ordinary afternoon. That's the part people never understand. There was no storm, no argument, no reckless decision, just a road I had driven 100 times before. A moment of distraction, a call I shouldn't have ignored, a truck I didn't see until it was already too late. The sound wasn't loud the way movies make it seem. It was sharp, final, like metal agreeing to destroy itself. I remember the world spinning, glass breaking, pain that didn't arrive immediately, only confusion. Then silence. When I woke up, the ceiling was white and unfamiliar. Hospitals always smell the same, disinfectant and quiet fear. At first, I couldn't feel anything below my waist. I didn't panic. Not yet. Doctors spoke carefully, the way people do when they're trying not to steal hope all at once. Spinal trauma, severe nerve damage. Recovery will take time. Time felt manageable. Time always had. Laura sat beside my bed, holding my hand. Her grip was firm, but her eyes weren't. My parents came every day. My relatives visited. Friends called constantly. I was surrounded. I thought I was supported. The truth arrived slowly, not as a sentence,
not as a diagnosis, as absence. The first sign was work. Calls stopped coming as frequently. Clients asked questions that sounded like concern, but felt like contingency planning. How long will you be out? Is there someone else we can speak to? Do you have coverage if this continues? My business relied on movement, on presence, on a man who could show up. And I couldn't. Weeks turned into months. Rehabilitation was brutal. Every session felt like humiliation dressed as progress. Lifting a leg that refused to obey, sweating over movements toddlers master without thought, smiling through pain so others wouldn't feel uncomfortable. Laura attended a few sessions at first. She sat quietly, scrolling through her phone, clapping softly when therapists encouraged her to. But her visits became shorter, then less frequent. She was tired, she said, overwhelmed, stressed. I understood. At least I told myself I did. Money began slipping away quietly. Savings turned into expenses. Insurance covered some things, but not dignity, not pride. The house felt different. Conversations became transactional. What bills were due, what appointments I had, what assistance I needed. Not once did she ask how I felt. I didn't ask either. Somewhere deep inside, I was afraid of the answer. Family gatherings stopped including me. At first, it was logistical. It's easier if you rest. We didn't want to trouble you. Then it became habitual. Photos appeared online. Birthdays, dinners, smiles. I wasn't in them. No one explained why. They didn't need to. The hardest part wasn't the pain. It wasn't the wheelchair. It was watching people adjust to a version of you they no longer needed. I went from being the solution to being the responsibility. And responsibility is rarely loved. One night, months after the accident, Laura sat across from me at the kitchen table. She didn't cry. She didn't raise her voice. That scared me more than anger ever could. "I don't know how long I can do this," she said quietly. "Do what?" I asked. She hesitated. "This life." I looked around. The house, the silence, the man she married, now seated, dependent, uncertain. She wasn't speaking about circumstances. She was speaking about me. I tried harder after that, pushed myself further in therapy, forced optimism, forced strength. But effort without belief is just exhaustion. Progress came slowly, too slowly for someone already planning their escape. The day everything changed didn't feel dramatic. It felt administrative. I received a message on my phone while sitting alone in the living room. No warning, no build-up, just words on a screen. "Ethan, I filed for divorce. I'm sorry, but I can't live the rest of my life like this. I didn't choose this. I can't stay married to someone who may never walk again." I read it 3 times, then a 4th. My hands shook, but my chest felt empty. She didn't say she didn't love me. She didn't have to. Love doesn't leave by paperwork. It leaves long before. That night, for the first time since the accident, the house was completely silent. No footsteps, no movement, no expectation. Just me, alone, in a body that felt like a prison, in a life that no longer recognized me. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I stared at the wall and realized something terrifying. Every ounce of love I thought I had was rented, and the payment was money, movement, and usefulness. I had lost all three. And yet, somewhere beneath the weight of abandonment, something unfamiliar stirred. Not hope, not strength, but anger. Quiet, focused, patient. The kind that doesn't explode, the kind that waits.
Divorce doesn't arrive like betrayal. Betrayal is loud. It slams doors. It shatters trust in a single moment. Divorce, when it comes quietly, feels more like evaporation. One day something is there. The next day, it isn't. And no one can tell you exactly when it disappeared. After Laura sent the message, she didn't come home. There was no confrontation, no final conversation, just absence. Her toothbrush vanished from the bathroom. Her shoes disappeared from the closet. Her side of the bed remained untouched, cold, unused, like a museum exhibit of a life that had already moved on. I stayed where I was, in the living room, in the wheelchair, in my own thoughts, waiting for a pain that refused to arrive on schedule. The paperwork came a week later, an envelope, official, polite, the kind of language lawyers use to make emotional amputations feel professional. Assets, responsibilities, future arrangements. I scanned the pages slowly, my eyes stopping on words that no longer belonged to me. Husband, marriage, joint. Everything was written in past tense. I signed where instructed, not because I agreed, but because fighting felt pointless. People reacted exactly how you'd expect. Some called, "I'm so sorry. She wasn't strong enough. You'll find someone better." Others said nothing at all. Silence is easier when someone's tragedy makes you uncomfortable. My parents tried. They visited more often after Laura left, brought food, asked practical questions, but even they struggled to hide the shift. Their tone softened, not with compassion, but caution, as if they were afraid of saying the wrong thing to a version of me they no longer recognized. My mother avoided my eyes. My father spoke only when necessary, and neither of them stayed very long. Rehabilitation became my entire world. 3 days a week, same room, same equipment, same mirrors reflecting a man I didn't want to acknowledge. Progress was measured in inches, a slight movement in my toes, a twitch in my thigh, celebrated by professionals, dismissed by my own mind. "How long until I can walk?" I asked once. The therapist paused before answering. That pause said everything. "We don't know," she said carefully, "but we'll keep trying." Trying felt like a word designed to avoid the truth. At home, time slowed down. Days blended together. Morning came. Nothing changed. Night arrived. I stopped turning on lights in unused rooms. Why illuminate emptiness? The business I once built with obsession was now running without me, or rather, slowly dying. My partner handled what he could. Clients moved on. Revenue declined. I watched numbers fall on my screen, powerless to intervene. For the first time in my life, effort didn't equal results, and that terrified me. The world doesn't hate the broken, it just forgets them. I noticed it in small ways. Friends stopped inviting me out, not out of cruelty, but convenience. Restaurants weren't built for wheels. Social lives weren't designed for limitations. It was easier to exclude me than to adapt. So they did. Laura never contacted me again, not to ask how I was doing, not to check on my progress. Nothing. I heard about her through others. She had moved closer to the city, started working again, and was doing well. That phrase haunted me. Doing well. As if leaving me had unlocked something, as if her life required my absence to function. The nights were the worst. Pain crept in when distractions disappeared, nerves misfiring, muscles burning, and memories relentless, intrusive. I replayed moments from our marriage, not the big fights, the small things, the way she used to rest her head on my shoulder, the way she said my name when she needed something, the way she smiled when money wasn't a concern. I wondered when love had turned into calculation, or if it always had been. One night, unable to sleep, I tried to stand. No warning, no preparation, just frustration. I gripped the armrests of the wheelchair and pushed. My legs shook violently. For a brief moment, gravity hesitated. Then reality returned. I collapsed to the floor. Hard. The pain was immediate, sharp, unforgiving. But what followed hurt more. Laughter. Not from anyone else, from me. A hollow, broken sound. Alone on the floor, staring at the ceiling, I realized something dangerous. I had stopped being afraid of pain. And when pain no longer scares you, you're close to losing something far more important. The next morning, I didn't call for help. I stayed where I fell. For hours, watching sunlight crawl across the floor, thinking about how easily a person can disappear without leaving a mark. I thought about endings, not dramatic ones, quiet ones, the kind no one notices until it's too late. That thought frightened me enough to cry. The first time since the accident. Tears didn't come violently. They came steadily, like something finally allowed to flow. After that day, something shifted. Not in my body, in my mind. I stopped waiting for rescue, stopped expecting understanding, stopped hoping someone would return. Hope, I realized, had become passive, and passivity had cost me everything. I returned to therapy with a different mindset, not optimistic, not inspired, angry. Anger gave me focus. Every exercise became a confrontation. Every failure felt personal. I pushed harder, stayed longer, ignored encouragement, and chased resistance. Therapists warned me about burnout. I ignored them. Burnout required energy. I had nothing left to lose. Weeks passed. Months. Progress remained minimal, but discipline replaced despair. I stopped measuring success by milestones. I measured it by refusal. Refusal to quit. Refusal to surrender. Refusal to accept the version of me everyone else had already chosen. One afternoon, after a session that felt no different from the hundreds before it, something happened. I didn't notice it at first. My therapist did. "Did you feel that?" she asked. "What feel?" "You shifted your weight." I laughed. "That's not walking." "No," she agreed, "but it's not nothing either." That night, alone again, I tried to stand. Not recklessly, carefully, hands gripping the counter, legs trembling. I rose, not fully, but enough to feel the floor beneath both feet at the same time. I didn't smile. I didn't celebrate. I stood there, breathing heavily, and whispered words I hadn't said in a long time. "I'm still here." Laura's name crossed my mind, not with longing, with clarity. She hadn't left because I was broken. She left because my brokenness revealed the terms of her love, and once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. I went back to bed exhausted, in pain, but for the first time since the accident, sleep came without dread, because something had begun to grow in the space where love once lived. Not hope, not forgiveness, resolute. And resolute, unlike love, doesn't leave when things get difficult.
There is a kind of darkness that doesn't scare you. It doesn't jump out. It doesn't threaten. It doesn't scream. It settles, quietly, patiently, like dust in an abandoned room. That was my life for the next 2 years. Progress didn't continue the way motivational stories promise it will. After that first moment of standing, my body seemed to remember its limits. Days passed with no improvement. Weeks blurred together. Months ended exactly where they began. Therapists tried to stay encouraging. You're doing well. This takes time. Everybody heals differently. But encouragement without evidence becomes noise, and noise eventually fades. I woke up every morning with the same question. Is this it? Is this the ceiling of my life now? Not rock bottom, just a low, flat surface I was expected to accept. Money became a problem I could no longer ignore. The business I once controlled completely had slipped beyond reach. My partner eventually asked for a meeting. He didn't come to my house. He chose a cafe. Neutral ground. He spoke carefully, avoiding words like failure and end. But that's what it was. We can't keep going like this, he said. We're bleeding. I nodded. We closed the business 2 months later. No ceremony, no farewell, just a final email and accounts that went silent. The thing that once defined me vanished without resistance. My parents suggested I move closer to them. Just for support, my mother said. But I heard the truth underneath. They didn't trust me to survive alone. I refused, not out of pride, out of fear. If I surrendered my independence completely, I wasn't sure I'd ever fight to reclaim it. Isolation deepened. Days passed without conversation. Sometimes I realized hours had gone by without me speaking a single word. Human voices started to feel unfamiliar. I stopped shaving regularly, stopped caring how I looked. There was no audience anymore. Pain changed shape over time. At first, it was sharp, then constant. Eventually, it became background noise. What replaced it was worse. Numbness. I could watch memories without reacting to them. Photos from my old life felt like images of a stranger. That man wasn't me anymore. He walked. He provided. He was wanted. Laura crossed my mind less often. When she did, it wasn't with anger. It was with distance. I stopped asking why she left. The answer no longer mattered. She hadn't left because I was broken. She left before the accident ever happened. The injury only exposed it. One winter night, everything nearly ended. There was no dramatic setup, just exhaustion. A bone-deep weariness that whispered dangerous ideas. What if you stop trying? What if this is enough? I sat in the dark, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. The world kept functioning without me. I thought, if I disappear tonight, how long before anyone notices? That thought terrified me, not because I wanted to die, but because part of me wasn't sure anyone needed me to live. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling until morning light leaked in. When it did, something inside me cracked open. This can't be how it ends. Not as a declaration, as a plea. The next day, I changed my approach. Not physically, mentally. I stopped chasing walking. I focused on control, balance, posture, breathing. I studied my body like a system instead of a disappointment. Every muscle became a component. Every movement became data. I treated recovery like engineering, not hope. I created a routine so strict it bordered on cruelty. Wake up, stretch, train, rest, repeat. No emotion attached, no expectations. On days when my body refused to cooperate, I still showed up. I wasn't trying to win. I was trying to outlast. Months passed. Small changes appeared quietly. Weight distribution improved.
Core strength stabilized, reflexes sharpened. Nothing dramatic, but measurable. One afternoon during a session I had done hundreds of times before, something happened. I stood, not holding on to anything, not for long. 3 seconds. Those 3 seconds felt unreal. The therapist froze, then smiled. I didn't. I held my breath until gravity reclaimed me. This wasn't recovery. This was possibility. The attempts became obsessive. Hundreds turned into thousands. Most failed. Some ended with bruises. A few ended with progress. Falling stopped humiliating me. It became part of the process. My mind sharpened. The fog lifted. I started thinking beyond survival, about work, about rebuilding. I studied markets again, read late into the night, made plans silently. No announcements, no validation. The day I took my first full step unaided, no one was there. No applause. Just me. One step, then another. I walked until my legs collapsed. Lying on the floor, I smiled. Not because I had won, but because I knew this. No one could take this from me again. The darkest years hadn't destroyed me. They had stripped me of illusions, of borrowed love, of fragile identity. What remained was quieter, harder, unshakable.
The first time I walked outside alone, no one noticed. No applause, no encouraging smiles, no witnesses. Just the pavement under my shoes and the unfamiliar balance of my own body. I didn't walk far, half a block, then another. Every step felt negotiated, earned. I stopped at the corner and leaned against a streetlight, breathing hard, not from exhaustion, but disbelief. The world hadn't waited for me. Cars passed, people talked, life moved forward. And for the first time in years, I was moving with it, on my own. Walking didn't fix everything. Pain followed me. Fatigue lingered. Some days my legs betrayed me without warning. But I was upright, and upright changes how people see you. More importantly, it changes how you see yourself. I didn't announce my recovery. I didn't share updates. I let silence speak. Rebuilding my life wasn't dramatic. It was precise. I didn't return to my old business. I understood now how fragile it had been, dependent on speed, presence, constant motion. Instead, I built something quieter. Consulting, advisory work, systems that rewarded thought over movement. I worked from home at first, then small offices. Money returned slowly, but this time, it didn't bring noise with it, just stability. And stability felt like freedom. As my income grew, so did attention. Former contacts reached out. Glad to see you back. Always believed in you. We should reconnect. They hadn't believed. They had waited. Waiting is not loyalty. It's convenience. I stayed polite, professional, distant. My parents noticed the change before anyone else. Not my walking, my boundaries. I visited less, shared less. When they spoke about the past, I didn't argue. Silence corrected what explanations never could. Love that appears only after survival isn't love. It's relief. One afternoon, nearly a year after I began walking again, I received a message from Laura. I heard you're doing better. No greeting, no apology, just an opening. She sent another message minutes later. I've been thinking about everything. I made mistakes. I didn't know how to handle what happened. We met once, in public, a quiet cafe. She stood when she saw me walking toward her. Shock crossed her face before she hid it. You look good, she said. We talked politely, about work, about life. Eventually, she said what she came to say. I regret how things ended. I believed her. Regret is easy when the pain is no longer yours.
I listened. Then I spoke. I don't hate you, but I'm not the man you left anymore, and I'm not interested in being the man you returned to. She looked hurt, confused. I understood that look. I had lived in it once. When we parted, I felt no triumph, no closure, just certainty. Some chapters don't need reconciliation. They need distance. As my health stabilized, opportunities expanded. I invested carefully, built partnerships slowly. Every decision passed one question: does this cost my peace? If it did, I declined. Success came quietly, but deeply. People who once disappeared began to return. Relatives, old friends. They spoke as if nothing had happened, as if absence could be erased by presence. I didn't confront them. I didn't accuse. I simply didn't rearrange my life to include them. The version of me that begged for connection no longer existed. One evening, I walked through my neighborhood as the sun set. The same streets, different man. I realized I was grateful, not for the accident, not for the loss, but for the truth it revealed. I learned who loved me when I was strong and who vanished when I wasn't. That knowledge was expensive, but worth it. I don't chase happiness anymore. I value peace. I don't measure success by admiration. I measure it by independence. And I no longer fear losing everything, because I've already survived that. The man everyone loved was built on usefulness. The man standing now is built on self-respect. And that man doesn't beg for loyalty. He chooses solitude over conditional love. Sometimes, late at night, I think about the version of myself who lay on the floor, unable to stand, abandoned by the world he built. I don't pity him. I thank him, because he endured what I needed to become unbreakable. I walk every day now, not to prove anything, not to impress anyone, but because movement reminds me of a truth I earned the hard way. The moment you stop needing validation, you stop being controlled by those who withhold it. And that is where real freedom begins.